Okay.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So this is our first series of IDEE seminar for the year. We started a bit late, but we are starting super well because we have the chance to have Sule Alan, who is now at Cornell University, who used to be at European, how is it? Florence European
University Institute, yeah.
University, and Sule has a number of fantastic experiments in education, mostly in Turkey. But today we are traveling a bit, Sule. So thank you very much for being here, and I leave you the floor.
Okay, thank you so much. And this is a joint work with two fantastic juniors. Kumar Biswas, right now, he is doing a pre-doc at University of Chicago, and my student from the European University Institute, Christina Hauser, she is also here to help me through this presentation, and our colleague at World Bank, Svetlana Svarbal. So the work is, as Mark says, is not going to be about Turkey, but none of my stuff is about a country, actually. This is going to be about adolescent behavior, especially adolescent behavior in the education setting, how we can actually manage that behavior to improve their learning. So please feel free to ask questions as I go along so that I don't feel too lonely because like I usually feel too lonely in online presentations because um, I can't see how you're reacting to what I'm saying. So let me give you a brief motivation why we were interested in this kind of research. I've been doing a lot of educational interventions, mainly at the beginning, targeting young children, like primary school children, who don't seem to have a lot of behavioral problems, although we are seeing a lot of it now for different reasons. But we know and I'm going to also show you, try to convince you that the behavioral problems in classroom can cause learning problems. We have now sort of good evidence that shows that learning occurs in a very supportive, very well behaved classroom. And if you have the opposite situation, like you have a toxic school environment, very disruptive behavior in the classroom, antisocial peer relationships, and also poor student-teacher relationship, especially at the adolescent, because you don't see this in the young children's. Bad student-teacher relationships can cause actually a lot of problems for the school climate and in turn translates into bad learning outcomes. There are many educational interventions. We try to improve academic outcomes. We started really narrow. How can we improve children's math and reading and reading comprehension and writing using curricular interventions, using infrastructural interventions, and they have all varying effectiveness and cost effectiveness. There's very little work on like how we teach these children, how we actually interact with them in the classroom, in the school environment to help them learn better. So this is going to be kind of a like in between, it's not going to be exactly a pedagogical intervention. Pedagogic, when I say pedagogy, I think of like how we teach things, but this is going to be about behavior management. Turns out when I was doing this work, when I was in the classrooms collecting data, it turns out that it's very, very important the way you control the class to teach anything. I think it's true for all of us in university, as university teachers as well, that if we can't engage the students, if we can't really interact with them, there's not much learning happening. So, when I think about pedagogy, this is what I think. The pedagogy is a good, effective pedagogy is the one that engages the students and they get their undivided attention. Because only then the learning happens. You have to also make learning enjoyable. If the learning is not enjoyable, we have now good evidence even from neuroscience that if the learning is not an enjoyable process, it also doesn't happen. So you have to create kind of a positive learning environment, interact with the pupils in a positive way that and also make sure there's minimal disruption and antisocial behavior in the class and in the school, and then create these norms to make learning happen. That requires good, effective behavior management in the classroom. How do you handle the disruptive peers, disruptive kids, so that everybody, including the disruptive kids, actually benefit from this management? Management is really, really difficult in the period of adolescence. I mean, if you have kids at the adolescent age, you actually know what I'm talking about. In the early adolescent age, handling even your kids, your own kids, is very, very difficult because the kids go through a lot of emotional outbursts. They go through a lot of socialization issues at that age, and that is reflected how they behave in the classroom, in the school. So we find it especially difficult to manage adolescent behavior in the secondary school setting. So, in a period where the adolescence starts, like age 12, 13, 14, when the kids are most difficult, and that is the time, that is a time, a horrific time for teacher. Turns out being a middle school teacher is the most difficult thing, most difficult teaching period for you, right? So like I actually commend their efforts. So behavioral misconduct is very prevalent, even the best of schools around this period. You see bullying, you see violence, you see, questioning the teacher authority quite a bit. So there are lots of programs that actually try to improve, not adolescent behavior per se, but in the educational setting, improve their, outcomes, educational outcomes. A lot of them fail. A lot of the programs that actually target adolescents, not just the educational setting. David Yeager has a really nice book I actually recommend to everyone. It says the title is 10 to 25, I think. Talks about why we fail to engage adolescents in anything like smoking, addiction, behavior. All of that is like he actually describes it really well, and that's going to be part of this research agenda, that we fail to understand them. For some reason, we forgot what we went through when we were in that age. I guess it was too painful to remember. That's why we all forgot about this. But what we see here is not like we tend to see as adolescent incompetence. So they can't do anything. They can't get up early. They can't get their homework done. They can't stop behaving badly. We see this as incompetence, but turns out there's a real good reason for this. Neuroscientific reason, and also some developmental and evolutionary reasons. Adolescents seek social status. Schools are horrific environments for them to find their social self-respect, social self. Yeah. They seek adult respect. They demand autonomy because that is required to find who they are, what they are in the social totem pole. So any intervention that does not take into account is doomed to fail, right? And we see this over and over in many other settings. And I think in educational settings, it's also correct. So this program is sort of taking these insights and then we acknowledge the uniqueness of the adolescence period. And we decided to design a program that manages adolescent behavior in the educational settings, namely classroom, but respecting what adolescents want. So what we're going to do here is we're going to shift the responsibility of classroom management and the behavior management from teacher to the students, because that's what they demand, because they are not interested in listening to adult input, because they see this as nagging. So there's really good neuroscientific evidence now that when you're talking to an adolescent and complaining, they measure their brain activity. They don't see any part of the brain that is associated with learning activated. They don't take it in. What is activated is anger. You you continuously invoke anger in them by telling them what to do. So you have to really know how to engage them, how to talk to them, which is really, really hard. We still don't know, but we're just going to try here a little bit. One of the things they want is the adult respect and the autonomy. We can do it. Leave us alone kind of behavior. So what we're going to do here is we give the teachers tools to actually shift this responsibility to the kids in the classroom, and the kids will establish their own collective behavioral conduct, okay, under our supervision, of course. And then they're going to monitor themselves, how they're behaving in the classroom. So it's all shifting the behavioral management issue from teacher to the kids, of course, under the teacher's supervision. This is the idea. So how are we going to do that? So to do that, we are going to leverage and we are going to actually use the whatever the infrastructure we have. And this is going to be, you're going to see, it's going to be in Bangladesh, which has so many problems, including behavioral management problems in the middle schools. What we are going to do here is we are going to create little groups in the classroom, which is in Bangladesh is the natural sitting arrangement. Kids sit in desks as groups, like three, four kids on a desk, which is very similar to Turkey as well. So we're going to select every week a group leader for that particular group. Every group will have a leader, but this will be rotating every week so that everybody gets the chance to be a leader. We're not going to exclude any kid. Everybody needs a status, not just the good kids, but every kid, especially the bad kids, right? The problem kids. So in the first 4 weeks, the teacher is going to have to do something. The teacher is going to choose the group leaders and then make sure that the first 4 weeks of activities are done. What are those activities? Well, creating a classroom code of conduct, basically creating a classroom constitution. And that is going to be the job of the students. Week 4 onwards, after we do that and the posters and everything, I'm going to show you some examples of that. Week 4 onwards, it's all going to be, teacher is just going to teach as usual. Nothing is going to happen with the teacher, but the kids and the group leaders every week that they're going to be rotating, they're going to be monitoring the classroom behavior. Whether the classroom behaved well or not, they're going to actually measure it, grade it, and record it. So basically, they're going to record their own behavior over time, over an academic year. This is the program. So I'm just going to give more examples of that. But before that, I'm going to see how I'm going to show you how we are going to evaluate this program. Our study site is Bangladesh, and then we picked basically the most problematic schools in these in a Dhaka division. Problematic meaning we have high student and teacher absenteeism. Teachers that just don't show up. They're just so unmotivated and so frustrated. A lot of middle school teachers in the world I find quite frustrated, but these are particular. There's high learning poverty in these schools. You know, we see like a grade 7 is actually at the level of grade 4 in terms of math and reading and all that stuff, which is very well known in the developing world. We have something like 36% dropout rate in the secondary school in these schools. Okay, so we will do the randomization at the school level. Okay, so we have 127 secondary schools. That amounts to 487 teachers. We have math teachers and the class teachers, what's called a class teacher, that is responsible for classroom behavior and other stuff. And that amounts to about 7,000 students. And we are going to focus on grade 6, the beginning of the middle school. And we are going to actually, the intervention is going to go and go through the part of grade 7. So these are problematic schools. Mean number of students in our schools is about 80. We have some classrooms up to like 200 kids. So it's like incredibly hard to manage kind of classrooms. Crowded, bad behavior, and so this is the situation we are looking at. And extremely low teacher motivation and extremely low teacher competency. Okay, so here is the study timeline. We started this by collecting baseline in July 2022. And we did the teacher training on how to do this. We showered them with the materials, the posters, and everything. It took a few days. And the implementation started as soon as the teacher training ended. For this, actually, we picked the students and the teachers who volunteered to be part of this program. Grade 6 teachers who volunteered to be part of this program. So the implementation was through entire grade 6. And then in January 2023, all these kids became grade 7. And most of them changed teachers. They got grade 7 teachers. For the grade 7 teachers, we kind of forced them to be in, right? We just didn't ask, look, there's a program, this is going on, please be part of the program, please. Okay, so we just got them in. So that's going to be important later on. So we did our end line in March 2023. By the way, if you don't know, it's not like Europe or Turkey. The academic year runs from January to December in here. So you're thinking about moving to grade 7 is January, and we collected this end line in March 2023. So these kids, more than half of grade 6 and bit of grade 7, they got this intervention. Okay, March 2023 end line, and we just finished last May the 1 year follow-up of the program. So this is the timeline.
Sule?
Yeah.
Sorry, just I didn't get it. So for the second year, I guess the kids were reshuffled between classes.
Some of them did. Some of them did. Some of them remained same. Some new kids came. Some classes split. Some classes merged. Yeah, that caused a lot of logistical problems.
In year 1 and in grade 6 and in grade 7, you were treating all the classes, or
yeah,
all the teachers. Okay.
Yeah. Not all the teachers, all the kids in the classroom. Teachers are the class teacher and the math teacher. So we didn't touch the science teacher or the social science teacher.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, okay. So we just took those.
Sorry, to follow up on Nina's question, because I'm not sure I understood perfectly. In a school, not all grade 6 students are treated, because they're treated only if their grade 6 teachers are volunteer for the program. Is that correct?
So there's on these schools, when there is grade 6, there's only one grade 6.
Oh, I
so
see.
they're all treated.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like I understand. For example, if I was doing this in Turkey, we have I don't know, 10 grade 6 classrooms. So I would pick the ones that actually would be part of this. But here it's not the case.
Okay.
I just found out because I'm getting into another Bangladesh project, and that's how it is, like the one grade. So instead of splitting 200 kids into 5 classrooms, I guess they don't have the infrastructure or the teacher to do that. They have this crowded classrooms instead. So they have a lot of problems. So the teacher training was days, right? You see the materials here we prepared for them. There are lots of materials like you see one at the wall there, that's a poster, for example, for the constitution of the classroom or other things. And you see these kids are using these materials, the project materials, so they actually tied themselves to the project. They're part of the project. They own the project. That was very important for us. They have to own the project because that's how they get the status. That's how we give them status and respect, right? So they are actually preparing for their group what would be the desirable, and undesirable behaviors, right? So this was part of the first 4 weeks. And then in the second week, group leaders get together and create an established code of conduct based on what is required. So it's a very democratic process, which they were not very used to. Let me give you a bit I'll tell you why this was difficult for them, especially for teachers. They're not used to giving voice to kids. When the kids misbehave, often you see corporal punishment. This is the situation here, right? It's not just not giving them a voice. It's just you behave, you get hit. right? So it was really hard to push back on that. So the kids prepared. So that's why you see kids just loved it. They've never seen anything like this. Teachers, on the other hand, not so much, right? So, um, so the kids prepare these code of conducts in the first, like for example, in the within 4 week, uh, students and teachers start filling the report cards assessing behavioral conduct. What you see on that wall is that what we give them monitoring chart of behavior. So this is how they monitor behavior. They have pins. The students monitor themselves with the, like, group leaders get together. Okay, today we behave so badly. Here is the pin, right? And the teacher also puts her opinion onto this. So blue is the students, I think the red is the teacher. So we would like to see an upward trend here, and then they would like to see an upward trend here all through the academic year. So the first 4 weeks, they get used to the program. What is this program about? And preparing the code of conduct, preparing the good behavior standards, and the rest of it is just teaching as usual, just monitoring. How did we do? How did we do?
Sule,
Mhm.
when they just to make sure I understand, when they judge themselves at the end of the day, I guess if I understand, when at the end of each day, I guess they judge their whole group of four, and it's not like each student, right? We're
Yeah,
not.
so there's some aggregation going on among the group leaders that week, right? It was usually done in during math and once or twice a week, not every day, right?
Okay.
So that's why you'll see the effects on math actually. I think that's the reason we see that. So the group leaders get together and aggregate the behavior. So if my group behaved so well, the other group didn't. So we gave them an aggregation structure. So they add and divide. So let's just take a mean of this and then just agree on it and put it on, right? So this creates pressure on the badly behaved group. Because of you, our average is low, man. Just behave yourself, right? That sort of thing. So this was the part of this whole idea. We create the norms, they create the norms, not we for them. They create the norms and they do uh, enforce them. They do enforce the norms, not us. And they do quite well in that sense. So what we expect from this program is the following, okay? So the good classroom management, we believe will lead to good classroom social climate. So that's what we are going to measure to begin with, right? What is a classroom social climate? Like it's a construct that we can measure using various measures. We can measure behavioral norms. We can ask kids like how your classmates behave, how much bullying there is, how much cooperation there is, how much trust there is, how much social isolation you see in the classroom, and peer support and teacher support. All those things can actually get at this construct, social climate. We can also measure good classroom management can lead to um, good socio-emotional well-being of the kids, especially social well-being, like, it might increase empathy, perspective taking of the other. It might increase the impulse control and overall mental well-being. We don't know. We will check. But overall, we believe the good classroom climate has to lead to good student learning for various reasons. If people are not disruptive, they listen to the teacher. Teacher will teach better. I will listen better. I will learn better. I keep giving this example from my high school, my middle school years and high school years. I went to a really crowded, terrible school in Turkey. We were like 80 kids in the classroom. And because I was too tall for Turks, right? People who know me, I'm quite tall. So they would put me at the back. But I was a nerd. I wanted to listen to the teacher, right? So to be able to listen to the teacher, you have to be in the front because back is a war zone, right? So I would try to negotiate with the teachers to be in the front and without letting my classmates know, because if they know, I would get beaten in the in the recess time, right? For doing that. So it's very similar because I want to listen, I want to learn, but the classroom is not allowing that, right? The behavior is not allowing that. So unfortunately, I have to tell you, we actually start seeing it in the primary school level as well. We see a lot of kids who are behaving badly, even grade one onwards. We don't know why. Anyways, this also should help teacher well-being. I think if your classroom is behaving, I keep getting the questions at chat, but I'm not very good at checking the questions at chat. Can somebody do that for me?
I'm trying to answer Schule, and if
Oh, you
something
are
is
answering. Good,
unanswered,
good.
I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, great. Okay. Okay. So, and then we are going to briefly, if I have time, we are going to look at the teachers as well. So this is a very simple intent to treat estimate. It's going to be, it's an ANCOVA outcome of the student I, whether it's a social climate outcome or academic outcome. So we are just going to compare means, right? So conditional on the baseline characteristics. Conditional on basically the baseline outcome and some of the stuff we think it's important in predicting the outcome. So here's how we are going to measure the classroom social climate. We are going to measure cooperation and free riding using a public goods game, using the groups that they have in the control and the treatment. They do have similar groups. We will measure behavioral norms with and bullying and perceived teacher support, sense of belonging through surveys. Cooperation game is just incentivized games. I'm going to explain. And classroom cleanliness we think is important for this kind of like, I belong, this classroom is mine kind of feeling. And this is a third party enumerator observation. Here's the simple public goods game. We tell the kids, here's your group, you're sitting with them. Okay, so we'll give you 5 gift tokens. You can get gifts from us. And but what you could do is you can actually contribute to the common pot of the group. It's up to you how much to contribute, whether to contribute or not. But whatever you contribute, we will look at the pot. We will take the amount of contribution, we will double it, and we will equally distribute it to everyone, as you see in the figure. So this is a very simple, well-known public goods game. Basically, 2 things you measure with this. 1, free riding. I know even if I don't contribute, I'm gonna get something from the others' contribution, right? If my classmates contribute. So whether to contribute or not is a free riding. And amount of contribution, how much you want to contribute, how much you want to cooperate with your colleagues, with your classmates. So we expect the treatment lower the free riding and increase cooperation by contribution. This is one of the examples. So let me show you why these classroom climates are actually important for educational setting. So what you see here is like only control group, just correlations. Am I right to think that classroom climate is predictive of good academic achievement? Okay, so it seems so. Okay, so higher behavioral norms overall in the classroom is predictive of higher math score. Higher perceived teacher support, same. Higher trust, sense of belonging, lower bullying, they're all kind of predicting higher achievement. Cooperation too in the public goods game, but the correlation coefficient is not significant. It's high, but it's not significant. So this basically kind of tells us our theory of change is kind of in the right way, right? So if we fix the classroom climate, if we actually fix the behavior, we can actually maybe, if there's a causal relationship, we can increase the test scores. Okay, so now I'm going to show you right after the intervention and the short-term results. It's May 2023, right, Christina? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here is the classroom climate indicators, treatment effects. I guess everybody knows this figure. 0 is the no effect line. And what you see here is except for the free riding, which is a percentage point effect, the rest is a standard deviation effect. Okay, because we have the survey items. Behavioral norms, large increase. Cooperation from the public goods game, large, 1.12, 0.12 standard deviation increase. Free riding, 6.5 percentage point decline. Okay. So if you look at these standard deviation effects, you can think of control group set to 0. Okay. So we set the control group to 0 to show you these effects, right? So classroom cleanliness, you see a large confidence bands because it's a classroom level variable. Remember, it was the observation of the enumerator. Goes into the classroom is like, how dirty is this classroom, right? Like, turns out it's pretty dirty. Christina, classrooms were pretty dirty, right? Yes, you were there. Okay. So what we see here is real good improvement in the classroom social climate indicators. Now, I'd like to see if this actually means anything in terms of academic achievement. As economists. That's what we are ultimately interested in. Like, not me, I'm interested in other things, but this is ultimately what the economists are interested in. So you see the treatment effect table here, but I'm going to actually show you a nicer figure. So we have no effect in the short term on all kids. So the average treatment effects on math and Bangla. Positive, these are standard deviation effects again. So you see all students here when the control group is set to 0. These are objective test scores, by the way. We implemented these tests in the classroom. So it's like 5% of a standard deviation math and 7% of a standard deviation in Bangla, but not significant. But when you actually split the kids into high and low ability at baseline, right? We see an impact on the high ability kids. Okay? So this goes back to my experience also at the beginning, right? So what happens is when the disruptive behavior is controlled, the first beneficiaries are the ones who actually want to learn. The ones who can now listen to the teacher and can learn, right? So this is how we interpret this. And we see this at a figure as well. So what you see in this, look at the math test results, and then we can look at the Bangla test results as well. So just look at the kids, all of them, there is no effect, right? Anybody who's higher than 2 questions answered, 3 questions answered, 4 questions answered, you see that as we go above median at the baseline ability level, baseline math level, you see the treatment effects increasing. You have less and less students here, but you have the treatment effects increasing. These are the immediate results. And we see this in Bangla scores as well. Right? You see above the median, you see a jump in the academic achievement because of the treatment. So the question then we asked is like, is it like now that high ability kids see the classroom climate nicer than the low ability kids? Turns out it's not the case. Every kid actually says classroom climate is better. Low ability kid, high ability kid, the same. Better behavioral norms, better cooperation, lower free riding, higher teacher support, perceived teacher support, and higher sense of belonging. So we see no heterogeneity in looking at perceiving the classroom climate by ability. But we see the effect on high ability kids in terms of academic achievement in the short run. When we look at individual well-being at end line, we split them into um, uh, two ways of thinking. Okay, we always say socio-emotional well-being, and a lot of people use this now, the socio-emotional scale, socio-emotional well-being. But there are skills that have social implications, and there are skills that are kind of like individual, like kind of mental health issues, right? So if you split them, this is basically arbitrary, right? This is my thinking more than any other, more than the profession's thinking. So any skill that has social externalities, for example, empathy, for example, perspective taking, for example, impulse control, right? I call them as like social well-being. And any skill that is like an individual thing is like mental well-being, self-worth, autonomy, all of that. Um, uh, we can call as an emotional well-being for the person. We see the effects on social well-being. So anything that is actually that has social implications. Your impulse control has social implications. Your perspective taking has social implications. Your self-worth may not be. I mean, maybe, but not as clearly as impulse control. Okay. Thinking of this, no skill uh, has just purely individualistic. Every skill has some social implications because we are social beings. We always interact with others, right? You can think of, for example, my grit may not have any social implications, but it might because it affects my behavior, and my um, behavior affects the people around me. So what we see here is social well-being indicators significantly impacted by this intervention, but not so much the emotional well-being indicators. It was a very eventful follow-up. So eventful in the sense that we had all sorts of issues like rain and stuff, right, Christina? We couldn't go Ramadan. Like they shut down schools in
We
Ramadan,
had we had
which was
a very
weird to
long,
me because
yeah,
they never
heat
do that in
waves.
Turkey. It's like they shut down the entire month. So we wait, and then the rainy season starts, the kids can't go to school. Oh, heat. It was the heat. So it was an eventful follow-up, but we managed. And then we managed before a huge political turmoil, because right after we got out of the field, there was a political turmoil. So I'm so glad we finished everything before the political turmoil. 1 year later, just like let me give you a context. 1 year later, what happened? 1 year later, these kids are
Sorry,
in.
Sule, Nina, you have a question for?
Yeah, I was just sorry, I missed it. All the outcomes that you presented. So it's like somebody asked a question in the chat about behavior, and I'm trying to figure out, do you have anything like from the teacher's perspective of like how do the teachers say that the students actually behaved better, or like anything to measure behavior? So you were saying, I think, Christina, that you didn't have a measure of behavior. Did you mean that in baseline? I was not sure.
What do you mean behavior? We have lots of measure for behavior.
Yeah, but from the teacher's perspective.
From the teacher's perspective, we didn't ask the teachers, like, what do you think for individual kids? What do you think their behavior? But overall, we asked them in the follow-up, overall, what they think, that what the program did, right? So they were quite positive about it. But I'm going to show you some teacher results that are
Yeah.
very puzzling,
To
because in the
clarify
end, they
this,
were very frustrated by this program.
so the question
Extremely
came up
frustrated.
when we showed the high ability and low ability heterogeneity,
Mhm.
and a person asked whether we could do that by baseline behavior.
Ah,
So we
baseline
cannot do that
behavior,
because we have no ranking of the kids who behaves well or bad at baseline. Because of course
right.
it would be difficult to ask a kid, are you a troublemaker, yes or no? We didn't do that.
Right. But we could do other things. We have fluid IQ, which we do. We have perspective taking ability, cognitive empathy. Um, we could do we could do those things like on the baseline ability, but baseline behavior, it is very hard to get the behavior other than official rankings and official disciplinary referrals. And at this age, I find schools do not want to hold disciplinary referrals that harshly. Um, um, I get that in Turkey. I just make them rank, right? But it's usually very small number of kids that are ranked to be real, real, real trouble. What you see here is every day kids just hit each other, pull each other's hair. They're trouble at this age. But real, real big troubles are only recorded in many cases. And we don't have it at baseline.
I was just thinking that I think to answer the question, like Christina, you can still look like in the control group at the correlation between test score and behavior, even in endline, and that could help
We
too.
could do that. We kind of do that in the behavioral norms. Like in the behavioral norms, we ask the kid is like, how does your classmates behave? Do they ridicule you? Do they hit you? Do they, yell at you? Are you feeling okay? We ask these questions, and that is highly correlated with the achievement that I was showing you in the control group. That kind of goes suggestively toward our theory of change. So kids, um, grade, Christina, grade 8 or grade 7?
So we started in grade 6.
No, in the follow-up grade
Follow-up
8,
was grade 8.
grade 8, they are all over the place in the school, right? The classrooms change, the teachers change, that they're just like, they are, and there is attrition. How is the attrition? Because as they grow, they stop coming to school, they drop out, and there's grade repetitions, right, in this environment. So about 20% attrition we have overall, and the attrition is more likely for older kids. What is the gender, Christina? More for girls or boys?
More for boys.
More for boys, and and also low ability kids. Attrition is more likely, obviously, for more low ability kids, but none of the attrition, whether it's grade repetition, whether it's official dropout, whether not being there when we are there, right, to measure, none of it is related to treatment. We check it in every way, none of it. But still, follow-up results, we use, of course, inverse probability weightings to account for attrition of certain characteristics. So these kids are not like very unlikely to be in the same group setting and group friends. Some of them are of course, but they change a lot. Let's see classroom climate results. We see like the effects dissipated in the classroom climate results. They don't see the behavioral norms as good. They don't see the teacher support as good. They don't feel belonging. Yeah. So all these classroom climate results just changed, right? So just to let you know, the program stopped, right? So program stopped. The idea of this program, in my idea, at the scale up, it has to be every year. Every year we have to have this, right? So to have, if you're targeting the school environment, right? So, but we stopped, and then the classroom climate results are back. What is really amazing is, despite the fact that we lose Bangla test scores, math results are stronger than ever. Okay, so strong that even the lower ability kids perform better compared to control. Really high effects as you go. Again, we see the top performance perform really well compared to controls top performers. But even at the lower level, we see effects now. So the math results really persist. One of the reasons we think is, now I don't know what you think, is that Math is like, I find this in other studies as well, that once the kid actually gets through the threshold, right, it's better for, like, it's easier for the kid to actually go through and feel like, okay, I can do this math, right? Even though in the new classroom, maybe the classroom behavior is not that great, but the kid keeps going. So this is my explanation for this, but we don't see this in the Bangla test scores, right? We looked at this in every different direction. We control like covariate adjustments. We look at without covariate adjustment. We look at weighting, different kinds of weighting. It's there. It's really, really, really there. It's amazing, right? So,
Just
but we don't see it in the social well-being. We don't see it in emotional well-being. The kids report like, nothing, right? Nothing anymore. They just see they're back to themselves, right? The classroom is bad. My friends are, not cooperative and all that stuff. But the math result is persisting.
just to make sure I understand, the how you interpret the different results between language and math. I thought like what you were saying at the beginning of your talk was also that because they were like checking the behavior during the math class, and it was the teacher, the
Maybe.
math teacher that was. It might be that so it's the two stories can be right. It's like it's either like math is easier at like improving in the long run because once you hit, or it's because like there was still a lot of behavioral issues in Bangla classes,
Yeah,
right?
maybe.
And
Yes,
that
exactly, Nina.
you can't know.
I can't say that. I can't separate, but over and over that I find in other educational interventions that it is so hard to improve language skills.
I agree. I agree.
It is the hardest thing. People think it's the math, but it is the language actually. And then and then it's not like math, it's not cumulative. We do some good and then it just dissipates, right? So I see this in many other settings as well. So much so that all I care about now, personally, as my research agenda, is the language skills. Because without that, we can't go anywhere, really. And the kids are not acquiring good language skills. And we see any effect just dissipates immediately, right? So we have to look at it differently. Language acquisition is very different from math learning, my understanding. I don't know how. I don't know how we can fix it, but I think we should all work on this because I think it's very, very important. I'm glad you brought
Shule,
this up. Yeah.
Shule, we have more or less 10 minutes, and maybe you want to keep 5 minutes for questions or
Okay.
comments.
So
Yeah.
I'm just gonna finish it. Like teacher effects, I'm gonna throw a puzzle at you and then I'm gonna ask you to solve the puzzle for me. Okay. We have absolutely negative treatment effects on teachers. So we ask teachers, like, first of all, we lower the absenteeism, 5 percentage point, right? So the treatment teachers do come to school under this program, right? And I think a lot of Indian people said, of my friends, development people said, that is why they're so upset. They come to school, right? When we ask them, how do you how do you manage the behavior? How is your mental well-being? How frustrated are you with the kids? All terrible because of the program. These teachers did not like this program, right? So, and we see this especially the teachers we kind of force into the program. If you look at the grade 6 teachers, we see the absenteeism declining, but we don't see these other effects. But if you look at the grade 7 teachers, we said, well, you got to get into this program. We see really, really bad results, frustration, mental well-being is like, this tells me that teacher competency is key. Like teacher motivation is key into establishing anything. Kids are happy. They love the program and they responded really well in terms of academic achievement. But the teachers is like, you know, this was just too much for them, I think. And then we see this frustration, and any educational program should, I think, take this into account. In the follow-up, we see less of that, but we still see the negative effects on teachers. We went back and asked the same teachers. They were not as frustrated anymore. Absenteeism is gone. They're back to normal. Look at the control mean. 10% of the teachers are absent in a given day. We do this via surprise visits. and there's no effect of the program. So like, and we see less of the frustration and everything, but still there. I'm just going to summarize the program that takes into account the adolescent status seeking, significantly improves the classroom climate, significantly improves academic scores, objective academic scores in the short term, but even more so after 1 year, even though the classroom climate and the behavioral results kind of dissipates. Math results remain stronger for all over. If you look at the program's uh, cost effectiveness, I just want to finish here that this program was very, very cheap, as you see. It was $5.8 per student. It's nothing compared to a lot of educational programs. And considering the follow-up result of math, 0.15 standard deviation increase overall, that amounts to 2.6 standard deviation increase in math per $100. It's a huge impact, like cost-effective impact. So it is scalable. They should scale up, but it's Bangladesh at the moment is a pretty messed up country, and so we'll see how it goes. So I'm gonna stop here and happy to answer questions.
Thank you a lot, Sule. That was super interesting. Thank you very much. So who wants to ask? We have like 10 to 5 minutes for questions and comments. Nina?
Yeah, so the first comment is just like, let's do it in France, in deprived neighborhoods. And the second is more a question, like, because a lot of what you said about this Bangladesh context actually, is
Applies to a lot of middle schools.
Yes. So, and the other thing is, can you re-explain, because I didn't quite get your interpretation on teacher, like the decrease in teacher well-being in the year 2. So if I understand well, you're saying in year 1, the teachers were voluntary to participate, like the school was voluntary, but in year 2, they were kind of like forced into it. Is it? Okay.
Like, because they were like, a lot of students change teachers, right? The math teachers change and when they move into 7th grade, and we were in the middle of, okay, what are we going to do with these teachers? We have to keep going with this program. So we just had to, there was a lot of like begging, please do this. The program has to go, right? Go. And then very likely in these cases, and my experience, the head teacher, because this is a World Bank program, right? This is a World Bank program. And the head teacher say, hey, this is a World Bank program. We said, yes, you're doing it. Right? So I think a lot of that was going on. And this says something about the scalability of these programs. Okay. The teacher has to embrace it. Even though this is a very student-directed program, in the first few weeks, we needed the teacher to orchestrate the whole thing. Okay. If the teacher is not on board, we would have a problem. Although we didn't, the students really, but don't forget, grade 6 kids became grade 7. They knew the program. A lot of the times they did the program themselves without needing the teacher, right? So, but it was an extra nuisance for the teacher probably, right? So this is my interpretation.
Is it that they're losing their power or something?
What's that?
They're losing kind of like their teacher power.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, because these teachers are used to not listening to teachers, they're not listening to kids, not taking them seriously in any way. It's the culture, right? The kid is nobody. So that somebody questions the behavior, like gets up and says something, it is probably hurtful for them. Yeah.
So, Shule, to be sure I get it right, so the teacher effects that you measure are for the grade 7 teachers, but you
Both.
don't have it for those who were volunteer to start with in 6th grade?
We asked both, like grade 6 and grade 7 teachers.
So I would anticipate that grade 6 teachers are happy with the program because they were volunteer, unless they were like kind of surprised. Oh yeah, there they are. Okay, so why? So is
There's
it
no
that
effect
the
on them.
program was not what they expected?
I think even them, they found it hard. They lowered it, like they came, see the absenteeism declined significantly for grade six teachers. But there's another reason. There's another thing. Like, I find volunteering, enthusiastic teachers, I find this over and over again. You know, um, a teacher who tries so hard is also the teacher who thinks she cannot make it, right? I don't know if you have any experience with this, but I have so much experience on this. If the teacher is telling me, I'm trying so hard, these kids are not going anywhere, I'm trying so, so hard, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So that is the teacher who's creating the value, but doesn't think that she's creating the value. Like she has very high expectations of herself. I don't know how much of this is going on here, but in my view, in like my work in Turkey, I can now tell who's gonna do a great program implementation. The teacher who's nervous about it, who's gonna do real great. But this is just my speculation and my experience. I don't know why these teachers are not happy. Happier than control, you mean, right? They're not happier than control. But the grade seven teachers are definitely sadder than the control. Much sadder than the control.
Mm.
Frustrated. So yeah, I don't know. I can speculate day and
Uh,
night, but we
uh,
don't know.
On behavior management, I would say people always expect effects that are huge. And I mean, your effects are huge by our standards, but probably like we're never doing as well as what they expect, I guess. That's maybe something.
So, so the kids think classroom behaves so well, the teacher thinks I can't do anything. Look at that. Yeah, yeah. And kids also, they say that their teacher is very supportive. They actually also love the teacher too, but the teacher says, I'm frustrated. Yeah. So, yeah.
yeah. Do we have other questions?
I don't know. I think Christina has been working on the chat.
Yeah, Christina has already answered
Okay.
many questions. Is there one remaining question before we close? Yeah. Okay. So I think we're through the session. Thank you a lot again, Sule, for this super interesting paper. Quite intriguing, right? All the long-term effects are a bit intriguing.
Yeah.
How the teacher reacts is intriguing. So I think there's a
Yeah.
lot to think about in this experiment. But
Yeah.
it's
This experiment created a lot of questions for us.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. It was super interesting.
Thank you so
So
much for inviting
thank
me.
you a lot for being with us.
Thank you so much for the questions, and
Right,
thank you so much for inviting me. This was
pleasure.
fun. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
See you
Bye.
soon. Goodbye.
Bye.